So,
All right, my name is Robin Whitworth, and I have with me today Chrystine Eld, who's in the Elevated Mother program. And she is about 8 weeks in, and I'm going to ask her just some questions. This is fairly unscripted. Like, I gave her a list of questions. She's had some time to think about it, but it's not like I said, make sure and include this. Like, she's just going to share from her heart some things that she's learned. So, inside the Elevated Mother experience, based on what you thought before you joined. So tell us a little bit about where you were before.
okay. So before I joined, I was finishing about 6 years of therapy. And I was really frustrated because every time I would go to my therapist, I felt like I was answering my own questions and they weren't able to give me any more guidance. And I really wanted guidance on my consistency. I felt like I didn't know what my goals were. I felt like I couldn't actively do anything. Like I felt really stuck in that way. And accountability or actionable steps is not something that is commonly seen in the therapeutic session. And so over time, I met Robin in like January 2022, and I kind of watched her content for about 7 months. And I was just like, everything she says is definitely what I want to pursue. And I was really nervous about the cost. But then I had a really big moment where I had to do some marriage therapy with my husband, and that was really expensive. And even through our marriage therapy, I was able to talk about the struggle I had with spending money between me and my husband. And so finally, I felt like I could move forward, and I was brave enough to like really have a conversation with my husband and say, hey, like I just feel like this is right for me. I actually couldn't even explain it that well why I thought the program was right for me. I called Robin and I was like, hey, can you explain the program? And she was like, it's actually kind of hard to explain because it's so unique to each person. And just my husband was able to give me that, we were able to say, he was like, okay, fine, like I trust you, like whatever. And the first few weeks were emotional. This is something I've been working on the past 8 weeks, is like my judgment. I was like judging the program. I was judging Robin personally, and she's always taken my personal judgments. I bring them to her because that's the only way I'm going to like resolve what is going on for me. And it's not really about Robin. It's just like I wanted to become a less judgmental person. And so that's kind of where I started. That's where I started. So I won't say more. That was
That's
my
great.
start.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Um, what has surprised you about the program?
What has surprised me about the program is the fact that my judgments were completely incorrect and not true. I made the judgment that, oh, like she doesn't have these nice like lights, or she doesn't have like a nice background, like YouTubers who are like very popular and they make a lot of money. Like she's not structured. Sometimes people walk in her videos, and I made judgments based on all of those things. So what has surprised me the most, which just kind of showcases what I needed to work on the most, is just genuinely how knowledgeable Robin is and how valuable genuinely the program has been to me and all the things that I have learned. And that's what surprises me. And it still surprises me. Like I am definitely getting high value, especially when I compare it to my therapy sessions. Like now it's just like therapy. I thought therapy was going well, but like there's just no comparison now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's so good to hear kind of that. I don't know if it's even a comparison, but just the experience, sharing the experience you had there, the experience you're having here, being
Mm-hmm.
very truthful and vulnerable about what you thought
Mm-hmm.
it should be like to get a quality experience. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
could I get quality if she doesn't have a nice life?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
So
if you have
good.
questions about that, if whoever's watching this, if you feel the same way, you have questions about that, I am so glad that I chose to be vulnerable about that with Robin. I remember the very first session, I brought up something that was a judgment directly about her. I was very nervous, but I was working on something called um, bravely sharing or something like that. And I was just like, hey, I'm going to say something. I was worried she was going to be offended. And that's just the mindset in the environment that I've lived in for so long. But she wasn't offended. And now I'm also learning all the principles that got her there, to no longer even be reactive, to worry about what other people think. And that was like a huge goal for me. And so 8 weeks in, we're still working through it, but I have seen so much progress along the way of what it means to me to be judgmental and how I can get rid of that and kind of like drop that system of interacting with other human beings, because it was actually getting in the way of my goals. It was getting in the way of my friendships. It was getting in the way of my relationships with my family members, and it's getting in the way with personally wanting to be a helper and be an advocate. One of the biggest things I worked on the elevated motherhood experience in the first 8 weeks was feeling like I was better than others. I was anxious about feeling like I was better than others. And Robin and I just talked this week in our one-on-one. It's like, no, now I know actually, I was feeling like I was better than others. And I've been able to, it's a complex process. I really can't explain in details, but like I have been able to break that down and finally really understand where that's coming from. It's like rooted in like culture, childhood, XYZ. And now I can get rid of it. And I don't think I would have been able to do that in any other way. Like these things you just can't do on your own. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm like you, I've learned over the years, like that support gives me courage to be vulnerable. Like I didn't realize how much the support of having either a coach or a group or a place that was a safe container to do that was such a vital piece. I thought, oh, I could do this by myself. Now that I've done, I'm like, okay, my clients need a group. My clients need, so tell me about the group. Tell me about the classes. How has it really been? People are like, hey, I saw you do this group with Robin, Chrystine. Like, what's it really like?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I was actually going to say next. I do think, and these are just my thoughts right now, I didn't think about this before. I do think there's value in having the group there. So for those of you who don't know, she does one-on-ones. We do a group on Mondays. We do a group on Thursdays. They're kind of different. But I think having the group there, and like, let's say someone else says something where I'm like, oh my God, I would have never said that. Now it gives me permission to do the same. So I like how as a group, even though the women, like, I don't know, actually don't even know how long some of these women have been in the program versus who is new, but they all bring these new experiences in. And that has kind of allowed me to observe others, because I am a little bit of a people pleaser / like, I'm going to observe others and try to like fit in. But it's been positive because these women are also breaking down their boundaries, and they're like, I'm not saying everyone struggled with judgmentalness, but most of our cultural mindsets can be a little judgy. And so they're breaking those things down for themselves. And by doing so, it's giving me inspiration, and it's giving me the motivation and courage to be like, hey, can I be brave and do this too? So I actually do think there's value in that. And the more I put out onto the Facebook group and the more I share into group sessions, I feel like the more other people talk, and it's just like a snowball of inspiration, ideas. And so even though I'm working with Robin on being even just self-conscious, oversharing, I'm worried about oversharing, I've just decided to say, okay, I accept that I feel this way, and we're going to move forward. And, I'll process that emotion, let that emotion ride the wave of that emotion. But like in the end, the evidence is that people are really appreciating my thoughts in the group. A lot of people have had really big breakthroughs because I said something a certain way. And so it's been nice, even though I'm still struggling with feeling embarrassed, that I can do these things and kind of have that live feedback of other people proving to me that my old belief systems weren't even true to begin with.
Yes.
And you wouldn't get that. You wouldn't get that with just one-on-ones, because it's like, it's hard to trust Robin as like an expert if you're just doing one-on-one, like, oh, she's just saying that. But when you're with like other women who are in the trenches, and Robin is in the trenches with you, that's the thing. That's another mindset I had to break. I thought Robin was here and we're all here. Robin knows things, and she's still in the trenches with you. Like no one is higher than the other in this group. And that's also, as I've asked her, that's why she chooses to present herself the way she does. And that is how I felt more comfortable growing and learning and asking questions and being vulnerable. And that is a valuable lesson for me, because now I understand why, even though I wanted to help my friends and family, they weren't really receiving my help. It's because I, unintentionally or not, like I was putting myself up on a pedestal, And that environment is not an environment in which someone can learn. So another good win.
So we're all mic drop now. So good.
Yeah.
So many things that you have uncovered. And this is what I love about working with Chrystine. Again, for those watching this, she is doing the work. It's interesting how people will choose to do this program and they kind of hang back.
Mm-hmm.
When you choose to dive in and you choose to do the work and you choose to just do what you I've invested, let's just go, you can make massive progress in your mindset in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have come to me and been fearful of, it's going to take me so long in your program. I just don't know if it's worth it. There's no way I can make progress inside of 6 months when I've been trying to progress for years.
Yeah.
So what would you tell another mom, another woman that is just like, they're feeling similar to you? They're making judgments about me. They've had experience with therapy. They really are working on, but it's like, they wonder what they're really going to find in this program. What do you tell her?
Yeah. Based on what you said, my thoughts are is you're not going to do it alone. So if you have mindsets that are keeping you from progressing, that's like from the past. So your brain is taking that information from the past and it's this is what it's going to be. But that is the whole purpose of this program. And again, this is what surprises me the most. I have never been disappointed with the counsel that Robin gives. I am finally, after 8 weeks, I'm finally like, hey, Robin, tell me more about how you learned what you learned. That's where I am finally 8 weeks later. But for the first 8 weeks, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. So if you believe that you can't do it, it's probably because you can't. And that's okay. You can work on judgment mindset base for that. If you want to do that with her, why am I judging myself? Everyone starts with that. Even in therapy, my therapist told me that everyone starts by just ranting. It literally takes maybe 4 or 5 sessions before they're like, hey, so what do you think? That is so normal for you to, if you just want to talk about yourself and discover why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? But her program is specifically designed, and yes, you have to participate. If you're willing to participate, you can take those issues, those mindsets, those complications that have been holding you back. And literally, even if you feel like she's not going to know the answer, because I felt that way lots of times, my therapists have proven to me that they didn't know the answer. So I have a little, I'm kind of scared to do that. But I would just say, hey, these are my thoughts. This is what I'm dealing with today. And my mind is I don't know if that's going to make sense to her. But it does. It does make sense to her. And the reason why is because there are overarching principles. She's really listening to you without judgments, and XYZ is what she's teaching me on how she's able to do what she does. And then when you take those things and work on those things over time, the progress is just going to be so good. The analogy in my mind right now is if you have a dam and the water is not flowing, the water is just never going to flow. And if you, with Robin, work on these things, just bring them up. If you are willing to be vulnerable, she can help you lift these dams that you've been, clogging yourself up with. This is the whole purpose of the program. And then how fast is that water going to flow? There's really no limit. It's just going to flow. And that is how I feel. I've had a really big week. And the thing is, I felt like every week has been a big week. I've had a really big week this week. And finally I'm involved with the planner that she's given me. I've kept this blank. So when she's talking about people being reluctant to participate, technically speaking, even though I've worked so well in the program, I've technically been reluctant to participate. And now that I've finally picked up a pen, a highlighter, some pencil crayons, and I'm interacting with the elevated motherhood experience in this book that she gives you, I'm wow, look at what is happening for me. So I myself haven't even started on goals yet. And that's okay, because those 8 weeks of breaking down those walls are more important / are going to facilitate such a fast progression, I have no doubt, of finally getting to where I need to be. Because it's not about getting where you need to be. It's why can't you get there? It's really about the mind, which is why I told my husband, even though I couldn't describe this group very well, I was like, I need this. I need this mindset. I would do like mindset, like that's how I used to call about it. I was like mindset group, like I need this because I knew I wanted XYZ and I knew I could do it, but for some reason I couldn't get there. And I knew it was my mind that was stopping me. But then once you work that out, and it wasn't that long, like I said, it's only been 8 weeks. I don't know, I don't feel like I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see where I'm going to go. Like, I don't feel like my progression is going to be slow now, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Makes sense to me.
And it's only slow to the person, right? Like things you've done, or other people are like, that took me like 10 years to figure out. How'd she do that in 8 weeks?
Yeah.
That's how, from my perspective, right? The journey is that my clients are so much faster than where I was for so many years figuring this out.
Yeah.
So one last little question for you, and then we'll be done. What has this meant to you? And I know this wasn't one of the questions directly, but when you think about all these things you were able to just express, what does this mean to you from where you were to where you are? Like, what
does this mean to me? I love this question, actually. I've been thinking about it a lot. It sounds like very, what do they call it? Stereotypical, perhaps. But like when you talk about the value of the program, and if you're like me, you're judging like Robin's little speech of like, there's so much value to this. No, she's right. And that's why I'm saying it's going to sound like, what is the word where like everyone says it? Cliche. It's a cliche. It's going to sound cliche, but that's totally fine. Is that genuinely this program is very valuable to me. So I'm going to kind of like interchange that with meaningful, because like ultimately, the things that you work on in this program, they're going to affect you for the rest of your life. And the reason why is because we experience things through our brain, through our perception of the world. And so constantly, every single interaction, you are filtering through this perception. And so if your perception is negative, it's not serving you, it's very limiting, for the rest of your life, you will be filtering through this perception. So to me, like I knew this, I'm a big psychology nerd. Like I really knew this in general. I'd never done something about it. So this is my first time doing something about it, but I knew I needed this. And now for the rest of my life, like we talk about spiral staircases in this program a lot, like these topics will come back to me again and again, and but I know how to deal with it now, and I know how to correct those thinking patterns. I know what questions to ask myself. I know how to push through it so that you're not constantly, like I said, that dam is just there, no water getting through. So like, all rivers have clogs here and there, but it's like, do we know how to do the maintenance, to just clear it out? And if you just clear it out a little bit, then there you go, you're all fine. But if you have like a huge dam and like that is it, that is what you need to break down. And then over time, you'll be able to just like, for the rest of your life, it's going to be valuable to you.
Hi, Mommy.
Yes. Right. Speaking of kids coming in, we both have a kid that comes in. But really, that is, Chrystine totally hit the nail on the head. That is why I do it the way that I do it. Very unscripted, very unplastered or perfect or anything, so that I am still working, you are still working, and we can be just together working on stuff. I may be 2 steps ahead in this area. Let me help you. Yeah. So beautiful thoughts.
I want to share my last thought because it's really important to me. I do feel like I've struggled with mental illness. That's why I had the therapy, and that had its place in my life during that period of time. But like for my mom, she, like, now that I know what mental health is, blah, 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 like I know she struggles with the same things. And she's 45 and she's like, no, like, it's not worth it. Like I've lived so long this way. And I just find that concept interesting. So I want to talk about it in case you're feeling that way, because like, yeah, you've lived this way for 45 years. And like, how much longer are you going to live? So it's like both like the concept of duality and being human, Like, can we live in suffering for this amount of years and still believe that we don't have to suffer for the rest of our lives? And I truly feel like no matter how small you feel like the rest of your life is, I genuinely like if you're able to do this work, you're going to look back and be like, wow, I am so grateful. Even if it's just 5 years you lived, even if like it's a little morbid, but like even if you're on your deathbed and you want to learn these things, like that time is still valuable. And that's another mindset. It's like, do you value your life? Do you value the rest of your time you have here on earth? Like, what does that mean to you? And ask yourself those questions. Because I know I'm young, but not a lot of people in this program are young, actually. We have a whole bunch of age ranges. And we're talking about judgments, initial judgments. There's an older lady in our group. And I was like, why is she in this group? Like, she's so old. And then it's funny because I was counseling my mom on, no, you're not too old. So it's nice to be able to catch myself as I make these judgments. Like the value of the human soul is worth so much. And so it does not matter how old you are, you still have so much value and so much that you can give. And like really only God knows what that looks like. So another thing is like, if you feel like this program is right for you, it probably because it is. Like that's the only thing that I kind of based it off. Like I just felt like it was right for me. I couldn't explain it in words, but I just felt like it was the right choice. Robin talks about, her faith in God and Jesus Christ, and just kind of like being intuition, being in sync with like the spirit and like what people really need. And that is why she can't really give you exactly what you're going to expect in this program. Because, if you really want to let God in your life as Christian women, like this could be God sending you a lifeboat while you're drowning, and you die and get to heaven and being like, why didn't you save me? I was asking you to save me the whole time and you didn't save me. And he said, I sent you this boat, like I sent you Robin, like she's right here. If you feel like you are drawn to join this program, if you feel like she's going to help you, maybe it's because she is. It's because she will. Like, are you able to accept God's presence in your life and kind of following that prompting? Because I know that I that's what I did, and I don't regret it. So I hope that's helpful.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Beautiful, beautiful way of thinking about the age that we're at,
Mm-hmm.
and also just like looking at like, why is this showing up for me here? And do I need to take some action on it? So thank you for sharing your experiences so much. I appreciate your time and all the work that you're doing. I am learning from you just as you're learning from me. So thank you for your time. And those of you that are watching this, you can get into the Facebook group, the Elevated Mother Collective, and you just can explore what we talk about there. If you are still sitting on the fence, hopefully Chrystine has helped you to hop off and come join us and start changing your life. And we'll see you there.
Okay, cool.